All right, everyone. So this is a report we had to do. We just had to do it. This is from Pro Football Talk. Report suggests Woody Johnson meddled in Aaron Glenn's defensive coordinator plans. Longtime assistant coach Wink Martindale interviewed twice in January for the Jets defensive coordinator position. And a new report says that Martindale heard two different things from head coach Aaron Glenn at those two interviews, perhaps because Jets owner Woody Johnson told Glenn to change his plans for the defense. Rich Cimini of ESPN reports that Martindale came away from the second interview under the impression that Glenn had changed the parameters of the defensive coordinator job. After the first interview, Martindale believed he'd be able to run his own defense if he took the job. After the second interview, Martindale believed it was Glenn who would be calling the defense. So, what changed? The report says Glenn attended meetings at Johnson's home in Florida, and there's speculation that Johnson, who has a reputation of meddling, had instructed Glenn to run the defense himself. Ultimately, Glenn gave the defensive coordinator job to Brian Duker just a day after he first interviewed for the job, and long after Glenn had interviewed 8 other candidates. It's unclear why Duker emerged as a candidate so late in the process and then got the job so quickly, but it could suggest that something fundamentally changed about the Jets' defensive coordinator job along the way. So, this is one of those situations. Now, this report doesn't, uh, I'll say this, it doesn't mean what the headline might imply, which is, well, you know, Aaron Glenn wanted to do this, but then Woody Johnson said he have to do this. It looks like maybe Aaron Glenn was convinced by Woody Johnson, but might not have been, your typical form of meddling here. Because it looks to me like Woody Johnson just goes there and says, maybe you should run the defense, right? Maybe you should be the guy that's doing that. And we'll see how it comes along this season. But if you're a Jets fan or if you're Woody Johnson, this has not been a very good couple of years for the organization, and it's only getting worse. Not only did you go to get Aaron Rodgers, and then you allowed Aaron Rodgers to make all of these changes, then he gets hurt, but the next season you bail after just a few weeks, right, by getting rid of Robert Saleh. Then Aaron Rodgers is out, so you bring in Aaron Glenn. And with Aaron Glenn, you're hoping that you're getting a little bit of what happened with the Lions, right, where you are able to turn your franchise around. Obviously, last year, it's not even just that the record was bad, the football just looked really bad. You got to keep with the process here with Aaron Glenn. I don't think you should, I'm not arguing there should be any change there, but it was not a good year in any way, shape, or form. You at least wanted to see if you could find, maybe it's Justin Fields, right, who can be your QB prospect for the future. It's not going to be. At the end of the year, Woody Johnson is now kind of being seemingly singled out when it comes to these report cards. You know how the NFLPA has these report cards from players. The Jets didn't do very well last year. I'm pretty sure they had gotten an F. And so now those aren't going to be released publicly, although they're still being done. And from what I'm reading, people are pointing to Woody Johnson as the reason for that. Let me be clear. Once again, it's not going to be a great look from Jets fans' perspective because they're seeing this as, okay, this is an owner who is making the wrong decisions, and now he doesn't want people to know the truth about what's going on in the Jets organization. And then you read into this and you read something like this, and what you see is he has seemingly some say over how things in the organization, like coaching decisions should also happen. Why would anybody in the world want Woody Johnson making those decisions? It just hasn't been a good thing. It just hasn't. If you hire a coach, you have to let the coach do the coaching. You have to let the coach make decisions. And ownership is there to kind of realize, okay, is this the guy that we want or is this not the guy? But you shouldn't hire somebody and then you are the one meddling in it. But like I said, I from what I'm reading here, it doesn't 110% rule out, in my opinion, like this is the worst form of meddling. I don't think that that's the case, right? This seems to me more of a convincing than a meddling, which I don't have the biggest issue with, but I just think if you're Aaron Glenn, you have to understand that you are 1 year in and it was now a disaster, right? The first year, once again, it's the record's not the problem, it's the competitive nature of the football, right? It was ugly football all year. There was a few bright spots, but overall some ugly, ugly football. And so what you have to build going forward is that foundation, right? You have to find a way to build that foundation to turn things around. Next year, if it looks like it did this year, even if you think, hey, it's unfair, I've only been here 2 years, I'm not really working with much, that's not going to fly in New York. Doesn't mean you have to be a playoff team, but you're going to have to look better. You're going to have to look better. And, you know, I was a big supporter of Aaron Glenn, and I still am, because I think if you looked at what he did with that Lions defense, despite the injuries, despite everything that was going on, he just had them playing top notch football and making plays when they had to. I understand statistically they weren't always a great defense, right? They usually weren't because of a lot of the injuries, but it just seemed like that defense would come up with big turnovers, big plays, when they needed him when he was there. And I thought that was a lot of his leadership right on that defensive side of the football. He's got to bring that here. I haven't seen that Aaron Glenn yet on the New York Jets, and that's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. I want to see Aaron Glenn like we saw him with the Lions. Not someone that is, uptight, right? Not someone that looks like they're, answering questions from the press and is angry and a little bit mad. Let's see the guy that he has that fire for football, but he's doing it his way, and I'm hoping that is what we get next year from him. And this right here, this is where that kind of convincing, that meddling may actually be an issue. If Aaron Glenn doesn't feel like he has freedom to do things the way he wants to do them, you might as well not even hire the guy. What's the point of hiring him if you're going to be the one making these decisions or having such a big say in some of these decisions? So, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.